Think about the last thing you bought: a toaster, a smartphone, or maybe the auto parts keeping your 10-year-old truck alive on the road. You walked up to the counter, swiped your card, and noticed the price was 20 to 30% higher than it was just a few years ago. You blamed inflation. You blamed the Federal Reserve. You blamed corporate greed. But what if the real culprit isn't just the money printing machine? What if it's a quiet, invisible ghost tax signed into law under the banner of protectionism? For the past decade, Washington politicians promised American consumers a beautiful dream: slap heavy tariffs on foreign goods, punish economic rivals, and bring manufacturing jobs screaming back to American soil. It sounded perfect on paper, a bulletproof strategy to protect Wall Street interests and rebuild Main Street factories. Except global trade doesn't care about political speeches. Instead of bringing factories back to Ohio or Texas, these high protective tariffs triggered a multi-billion-dollar global chess game. A chaotic scramble that forced multinational corporations to pack up their supply chains, bypass the United States entirely, and reroute hundreds of billions of dollars to third-party nations. And the bill for this entire global migration? It landed right in your mailbox. This is the untold story of the tariff trap. How a policy designed to protect America ended up breaking the global supply chain, shifting the world's trade map, and leaving the American consumer to pay the ultimate price. Let's clear up the biggest myth in modern economics right now, because low-context reality matters. Foreign governments do not pay tariffs. When Washington levies a 25% tariff on imported steel or electronic components, Beijing or Brussels doesn't send a check to the US Treasury. An American business owner, the importer in Detroit, Atlanta, or Seattle, is the one who receives the bill from US Customs. They must pay that tax in cold, hard cash before their raw materials even touch an American warehouse. So, what happens when a small or mid-sized business suddenly sees its manufacturing costs spike by millions of dollars overnight? They have exactly two choices. They can absorb the losses, kill their profit margins, and watch their stock price plummet on Wall Street, or they can pass the buck directly to you on Main Street. Spoiler alert, they always choose option 2. The political promise was simple: make foreign products artificially expensive, and American companies will stop buying from overseas and start building factories at home. But this logic completely ignored the brutal reality of modern manufacturing ecosystem. You cannot recreate a multi-trillion-dollar supply chain that took 40 years to build just by signing an executive order in Washington. Take the tech sector, for instance. A modern electronics device requires rare earth elements from South America, microchips fabricated in Taiwan, specialized glass from Japan, and final assembly in Southeast Asia. The United States simply does not possess the specialized factory infrastructure, the massive raw material access, or the sheer volume of skilled manufacturing labor required to bring the entire ecosystem home overnight. So, instead of a domestic manufacturing renaissance, American businesses faced a catastrophic choice: pay the punishing tax and stay put, or spend millions of dollars to rip up their logistics networks and move somewhere else. The illusion of protection shattered instantly against the wall of reality. Faced with billions of dollars in new tariff penalties, global corporations did not pack their bags and head back to the Rust Belt. Instead, they packed their machinery and initiated the largest logistics migration in human history. Welcome to the era of nearshoring and friendshoring. Companies quickly figured out the loophole. If a product manufactured in country A is subjected to a 25% tariff entering Los Angeles ports, what happens if you manufacture the components in country A, ship them to country B for final processing, assembly, and packaging, and then export it to the United States? The origin label changes. The tariff drops to 0. This simple loophole completely altered the global trade map. Countries like Vietnam, Mexico, India, and Malaysia suddenly found themselves at the epicenter of a massive industrial gold rush. Industrial real estate prices in northern Vietnam skyrocketed. Factories in Monterrey, Mexico expanded at a breakneck pace. In fact, by the mid-2020s, Mexico officially surpassed other major economies to become the #1 trading partner of the United States. But let's look at this with a healthy dose of skepticism, because the numbers hide a deeper truth. Did manufacturing actually leave the heavily tariffed nations? Not exactly. What we witnessed was a giant corporate shell game. Multinationals simply set up subsidiaries or joint ventures in these third-party nations. Raw components are still fabricated using the same old networks, shipped to places like Southeast Asia or Central America for final assembly, and then sent to American consumers. It's the ultimate irony of protectionist policy. The trade deficit didn't disappear, it just changed addresses. The supply chains didn't come back to the United States, they just became thousands of miles longer, significantly more complex, and vastly more expensive to maintain. This brings us to the most painful chapter of the tariff experiment, the double whammy hitting the wallets of everyday Americans. Every time a supply chain gets rerouted to a third country, a massive mountain of hidden costs is generated. First, there is the cost of physical relocation, ripping down an established automated production line, building a brand new facility in a foreign industrial park, training thousands of new workers, and setting up new local legal entities costs tens of millions of dollars up front. Second, there is the logistical nightmare. Instead of shipping a finished product directly from a single hub to the port of Long Beach, goods now travel from source countries to middleman countries, sitting in multiple custom checkpoints, occupying double the warehouse space, and consuming double the ocean freight capacity. More miles traveled means more fuel burned, more supply chain bottlenecks, and higher shipping rates. Who pays for these multi-million-dollar moving bills? You guessed it, the consumer on Main Street. Let's look at the hard data. Economic studies tracking the impact of these protective tariffs showed that virtually 100% of the tax burden was passed directly down to American buyers. And it doesn't just apply to imported finished goods, it actively hurts American companies trying to build products right here inside the United States. Consider an American manufacturer making heavy machinery in the Midwest. They buy American labor and use an American facility, but they rely on imported specialized aluminum or foreign microchips to assemble their products. Because of the tariffs, their raw material costs jump by 30%. Suddenly, their finished product is too expensive to compete on the global stage. To survive, they have to raise their prices domestically. So, a policy that was marketed as a shield to protect American jobs ended up acting as a systemic tax on American production. It created an artificial floor for inflation, making the Federal Reserve's battle against rising costs twice as difficult, and squeezing the disposable income of middle-class families. But the story gets even worse. In economics, there is a fundamental rule. Every action triggers an equal and opposite reaction. You cannot weaponize trade barriers without expecting your trading partners to weaponize theirs. Enter the devastating phenomenon of retaliatory tariffs. The moment Washington raised trade barriers, foreign markets struck back by targeting the most politically sensitive and economically vital sectors of the United States economy, American agriculture, and iconic domestic brands. Suddenly, American farmers growing soybeans in Iowa, pork in North Carolina, or almonds in California found themselves locked out of their biggest international buyer networks. Overnight, billions of dollars of high-yield American exports lost their competitiveness. The government had to step in with tens of billions of dollars in taxpayer-funded bailouts just to keep American farms from going completely bankrupt. We taxed our own consumers, blocked our own exports, and then used taxpayer money to clean up the mess. You can't make this stuff up. And then came the ultimate backfire. American corporations began fleeing their own homeland to escape the crossfire. Look at what major vehicle and manufacturing brands did. When foreign economic blocs placed heavy retaliatory taxes on products stamped "Made in the USA", these companies realized they could no longer profitably export their goods from domestic factories. Their solution? They built new manufacturing facilities inside the very foreign markets they wanted to sell to. Instead of bringing foreign jobs back to the United States, Protectionism forced historic American companies to export American capital, American technology, and American job openings overseas just to maintain their global market share. The system broke its own promise. The romantic ideal of an isolated, self-sustaining economic island is officially dead. The modern global economy is not a collection of independent sandbox kingdoms. It is a highly integrated, delicate biological nervous system. When you cut a nerve in one part of the world, the pain radiates through the entire body. High protective tariffs did not revitalize the domestic factories of the past. Instead, they forced the world to adapt, rewrite the rules of commerce, and construct a new global trade map that bypasses traditional American strongholds. Supply chains prove to be like water. They will always find the path of least resistance, flowing around political barriers, leaving behind higher costs and broken promises. So, where does this leave you? It means the era of cheap, friction-free consumer goods is over. As an investor, a business owner, or a consumer operating on Main Street, you can no longer afford to be passive. You have to understand the true anatomy of the products you buy and the companies you invest in. You need to look beyond the political rhetoric and audit the geographical resilience of your own financial portfolio. In a world defined by trade, friction, and supply chain re-engineering, the ultimate economic weapon isn't a government pen, it's individual adaptability and financial literacy. The global trade war didn't save the old economy. It just forced a more expensive, chaotic future into existence. And now, it's up to us to navigate it. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, protect your wealth, and truly understand the massive global forces shifting the markets every single day, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. How has the rising cost of everyday goods affected your business or your household budget? Let's talk down there. This is the World Money Desk. Stay sharp, stay authentic, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.